And we are live from LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Instagram. Wait, I got to click live on Instagram. They have extra steps for us. Now we're live on Instagram. It's Revening's Wednesday. Welcome to Wednesday, Revenue Party people. We've got our hot topics, our hot prizes. Wait, no, we don't have hot prizes. That's an old statement. I haven't said that in a long time, but I'm just on a roll. If you remember, back in the day, we did raffles, but then LinkedIn sort of, their terms and like raffles, it just like made me nervous. So we kind of stopped with that. Maybe we'll bring it back in the Wednesday community. Are you in the WhatsApp Wednesday community? If not, you should absolutely join. It's free. It's got past guests, which we want to make sure we invite tonight's guests. So I can definitely share that link to join in the private chat here in the studio so they can both join. But if you in the audience want to join, just send me a DM so I can make sure you're a real person, and then we'll invite you to the Wednesday group. But we talk about a lot of things in there: LinkedIn, sales, marketing, going live on LinkedIn, since that's what we do here at Reviting. But what's up? Where's everyone tuning in from tonight? We'd love to hear from you. I'm not seeing any numbers on like YouTube, but I see a few of you there on LinkedIn. AP, what's up? How's it going? You're back. Tell us, how's the family? AP, keep us updated and keep us honest throughout this conversation. Please, we want to hear from you. But let's get into it because these guests are more interesting than me. So, welcome to the show. We have Mellissa Tong here and Mike Busby. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Let's go. Let's go. Thank you.
Yeah, let's do this. So, if you both could share with the audience a little bit about yourself, tell your full life story from birth to what brought you to now in good old fashioned Wednesday style. We'll put a 2-minute clock up. Melissa, could you kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I don't know if you guys have heard of this phrase. It is called your biggest pain can become your biggest gain. So, growing up, I never set out to be doing what I'm doing now. And I came from a household where emotional connection wasn't really there. Meaning, my parents loved me, but they never really were able to show any, like, what do you call it? Like, show it, just couldn't show it. So I always felt like there was a barrier I didn't know how to cross, although I had friends. And that went on until grad school. So I was a music composition major. And after I finished grad school, I thought, okay, great, I'm going to become a composer. But, the universe said, okay, well, you're not going to become a composer, and I have something else, lined up for you. So I got yanked out of the, sort of music industry, and then I was hired to be a TV newscaster and reporter. So after I arrived in the newsroom, they said, okay, besides anchoring the news, you also have a 5-minute human interest segment every day. We don't care what you cover, just bring something back that is heartwarming, that is fun, that is entertaining. So in those 4 years, I interviewed thousands of people and ended up crafting over 1,200 on-air stories. And it was through that job that I finally realized how to truly connect with people emotionally. Because like I said, I never really learned it, and I didn't know that was what I'm missing. So fast forward, I became a movie producer after that, and then, opened up my own agency in 2000 and have been, doing a lot of TV commercial work, branded content, and now I do a lot of consulting work to truly help people find, craft, and tell their story to advance their careers and businesses. I have 7 seconds left.
Amazing. I love your timing. And thank you for sharing and going in depth about your actual personal story because that gives us like the full Melissa. Now we all need to go check out your LinkedIn to get even more information. So I don't know if someone's out there, tag Melissa so y'all can just
Yeah,
click on
please.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then Mike, could you tell your full life story in 2 minutes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Game time, right?
Nice.
What's up, everybody? My name is Mike. I'm the founder of Freedom Sales. We help business owners get off sales calls and do more of what they love. And my story is simple. I grew up in Maryland where I was a kid who loved to do what he wanted. With a lot of entrepreneurs, I valued freedom. And I remember growing up, I was cutting lawns. I was shoveling snow to make more money. The idea of like a typical like 9 to 5 never really, amused me too much. But I got into the corporate world when I was around 23, 24 as a front desk manager of this huge hotel. And I hated it. The fact of clocking in, being on someone else's time, like it drove me absolutely crazy. And I remember there was a time where, unfortunately, a woman at my job passed away. She was there for like 25 plus years and passed away on the job. And at that moment, I realized that if I didn't make a change, like that could be me as well. So I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and start my own thing. I started a drop shipping business. And guess what? I went $30,000 in credit card debt from trying my own thing. Traumatized, sleepless nights. It was horrible. And I was blessed to find a mentor who taught me about sales. And he told me that, Mike, if you can learn to make money without having to spend more money, you'll always be set. I got into sales, into this whole game of remote sales. I closed a lot of deals, and I realized that for a lot of business owners, they don't want to be on sales calls. They rather be doing more of what they love, spending time with family. And that kind of led me to opening up my own agency where I help business owners now get more freedom, get more of their time back. That's been the game lately, though, just helping people get more freedom, just like how I've always wanted.
Yes, we all want more freedom. I love that so much. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Of course.
And just playing around with the cameras here because there's this new mobile feature here in StreamYard called Mars. And it's kind of cutting us off. So we need to play with that a little bit. But anyway, so if you're seeing this on mobile, I think on Instagram, it might be a little janky. Let us know. Give us a comment. But I'm like moving around. So like pick up. Right now it's just showing Mellissa. That's cool. But anyway, let's dive into our first topic, story selling, which I love. Not storytelling, story selling for business growth and turning stories into sales. Mellissa, could you kick us off on this topic?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been storytelling for a very, very long time, right? So like I said, I started in TV, news journalism, and then, movie producing, and then shooting TV commercials, branded content, you name it. But the more I do it, the more I realize that we are not just telling stories. We're actually using stories to sell. And how much time do I have? So let me see if I can give you a full example, or I could just do a quick
Yeah,
one.
feel free to talk,
Okay.
5 minutes or so.
Yeah. So I'll give you a really simple example. So one time, this was a few years ago, we got a client and they're a CPA firm. And one of the owners came to us and said, okay, well, we have a stable pool of clients, but you never know. And I love going to networking events. And how do I become more dynamic? And how do I, get more known in my community? And I say, okay, great. That's a good way to start. And I asked him, how do you introduce yourself and what do you say, at these networking events? He said, oh, very simple. I just tell them, hey, my name is so-and-so. I have a CPA firm and I love, numbers and I like helping people save money from Uncle Sam. I said, okay, great. But don't you think other CPAs may say the same thing? He said, yeah, you're probably right. So that's why, I want to know what else can I say, right? So, okay, you came to the right place. Let's figure out what your story is. So I have a whole set of questions that I've been using, and I kept asking him different questions. And some of the questions he said, oh, I can't answer this because I have, client confidentiality. And then some of the questions he would be like, no, I had a pretty, decent childhood. I had no trauma growing up. I lived in the dorm when I was in college. I never really broke any rules. I was a pretty decent student. I got good grades. So everything to him was just so like ordinary. Nothing really jumped out. So I said, you know what? You've been around for a while and you've had your business for like 15 years. So I need you to at least give me one good story, because otherwise, how am I going to help you find your story? So at least, think harder. Give me something to work with. So I said, we're not going to leave, until you really give me a good story. So I kind of left him alone, and I could see that he's kind of like starting to stress out and say, oh, I don't know what to say. Say, just take your time. Just go off in a corner and then just kind of, just think about it and just, meditate or do something to help you, recover some of the stories. So after 20 minutes, he came back. He said, oh, wow, I got something. And if you did not push me this hard, I have never shared this story with anybody, and this story was actually, got buried deep in my psyche because for some reason I must have blocked it off. And like I said, I never shared it, and it never resurfaced until now. And I say, okay, what's the story? He said, well, it happened when I was 9 years old. My father was audited. And I remember standing in the hallway, watching him go back and forth, trying to get his paperwork ready. I say, wow, that's a pretty impactful story. I say, well, don't you think somehow subconsciously you already decided that you wanted to become a CPA? He said, oh, I never thought about it. I always knew I wanted to do this, but I don't know where that was coming from. I say, well, I think pretty much, at 9 years old, because you don't want people to go through what your father went through. I say, okay, from now on, stop saying that, you're CPA, I have a CPA firm, I love money, I love helping people save money. Stop saying all of that. From now on, when people ask you, oh, what do you do? Just simply say, yeah, can I share my personal story with you? And just tell the story. That's it. And let's just see how it goes. So 2 months later, we had a follow-up. He said, oh my gosh, I cannot tell you. People don't remember my name. And people don't remember, obviously, my, what I do. I mean, easy to remember after he says his story. But people remember me as the guy who helps people, like get the paperwork together when they get audited. So by sharing that story, not only was he able to articulate, why he was doing, what he was doing, but he was able to narrow down his clientele. Because think about it, if you really don't care whether your paperwork is ready or not, then he's not your ideal CPA. But if you truly care, then you're going to be, wow, I want to work with somebody and then have them, whip me in shape and make sure that whatever I got, I'm ready to go any given time. So that even if I got the call tomorrow, I'm not going to be stressed out. So the reason why I'm sharing this story is sometimes when you're in it, you don't realize how powerful your story can be. And like, for example, this guy, he never ever shared this story with anybody. And since he's been sharing it, people remember his story. And I'll use a quote by Maya Angelou. She said, people will never remember what you did. And people will also forget, people forget what you did. People will forget what you said. But people will never forget how you make them feel. So
Yeah.
if your story can make people feel a certain way, and also it has to be relevant to your target audience. So if you can make them feel something, and if your story is relevant to your audience, then they will remember you for a very long time. And even if they don't buy from you right away, so that's the power of story selling. And that's why I started to change storytelling to story selling, because the whole idea is really finding the one story that can help you propel your business and take it to the next level.
Oh, I love all of your stories that you just shared. Thank you so much, Mellissa. So I'm just wondering, that moment where he unearthed something he didn't even realize shaped his whole career. That probably happens often. How often, I guess, do you see founders carrying stories like that without even knowing it?
All the time. I hate to say that. Like, really, almost, I would say 99.9%. Only because, like I said, when you're in it, you don't see it. And like for me too, right? I mean, it took me a very, very long time to realize my own superpower, because I've been telling stories, basically more than half of my life. And I never really thought of myself as a storyteller either until I started doing consulting work. And I was like, wait a minute, why am I limiting myself to just telling story on the big screen? Yes, TV commercial is great. Having a movie, on the big screen is great. But at the same time, I want to make an impact. I want to help more people tell their story. So as much as I love seeing my own name on the big screen, I also, love helping people, because, I get to work with people, help them really see the superpower, and then using the superpower to craft their own story and use that to propel the business to the next level. That to me is very, very fulfilling work.
Oh, I love that. I want to get Mike's perspective, but also tune into what some of the comments are saying as well. I know AP asked a question in there. How do you unearth your story to share with people? So we'll let you think about that one, Mellissa. But Mike, what's your take on all this?
I like what you said earlier, though, Mellissa, about what makes a CPA different from anybody else. And you said it was your story. And I completely agree with that, because I think it's the same with just about anyone online. Like, there's so many people either who are doing marketing or doing sales, but like what separates you is what's important. For example, like I come from like hospitality background, and I remember I did a reel on Instagram talking about how I went from like the front desk, started my own business. You won't believe how many people from hotel hospitality hit me up about that exact same post saying, hey, bro, I feel the exact same way. And this makes me realize that like when you share your story, you attract other people like you, your tribe, basically. But I do have a question for you, Melissa, though. I guess, what would you say for people who are probably afraid of getting in front of the camera? How do they kind of shake off that shyness so that they could tell their story and they're not like, in their own head?
That's a great question. And I used to teach that more often. Now I teach a little bit less about that. But having come from a on camera, background, right? I have to tell you, I had to do 180 myself as well. So I'm going to give you a little bit long-winded answer. So you would think that, I was on camera. So obviously I had no fear. But I was married to somebody, and this guy, he's a wordsmith. And without knowing, I gave him the power. So I told him that, because English, is my second language. And although I learned it young, because I grew up in the British colony, but we never really, speak a lot about it. We learned to read and write. But in terms of speaking, like I said, I wasn't really using it, on a daily basis. So I said, okay, if you hear, that I make any mistakes, please correct me. So after a long time, I became completely self-conscious. And I got to a point where I couldn't even do anything without having to memorize it. So it got to a point that was really, really bad. So to answer the question, sometimes it's not just about the fear. Sometimes it's also about, if you are sure about your own purpose, then it's almost like no fear. Now, think about it this way. What is the one topic that you can talk about it forever? Even if people don't ask you about it, you can go on forever. So if you have any fear, I would start by practicing that, using your favorite topic, kind of just, you don't have to do it in front of people. You can just kind of, do it by yourself in your own room. Just try to use that as a practice. Like, keep talking with that topic for, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, right? Just keep practicing and practicing. So after a while, once you get comfortable in front of the camera, then you can inject other topics and do it, in a different way. So that's just one way, right? So there are many, many ways. I used to train people to do that. So there are many, many ways to kind of counter that fear, but I don't look at that as a real fear. I look at that as, because we're not really 100% sure about our own superpower. So that's why I think it camouflage as fear, but to me, it's actually not fear.
It's not fear. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I want to invite reactions to that in the comments too. And as you were talking, there was this comment or question: what makes a CPA different? I'm curious to hear more about your real story.
Well, so it was very hard for him to being able to articulate what makes him different, right? So, like, for example, he had no idea before we started working together. He thought, oh, I'm just a CPA and my differentiator is, because I'm helping people save money. He thought that was it. But every CPA, they're supposed to help you save money. Otherwise, what's the point, right? So after I learned about his story, so now his differentiator is because his father went through it. So his mission is, I don't want anybody has to go through what my father went through. So it became a mission for him. It's not just a job. So his mission is to make sure that whatever clients that he has, his job is to make sure that their paperwork will be ready to go in any given moment. So that even if they got a call the next day, they're not going to be stressed out. They don't have to spend more time to get everything ready. So that is his special sauce. So that's why, like I said, for people who care about whether, the paperwork is ready or not, then he's your ideal CPA. But for people who was like, okay, I'm just going to take my chance. I don't really care. I have boxes here. I have boxes there. I don't care. Then he's not your perfect CPA.
On mute. So thank you for answering that. I think that's such an interesting story that you have. You have such an interesting background. And thank you, David, for bringing that out and asking that question. But back to sort of what you were talking about earlier, Mellissa, what shifted for you internally when you realized the fear wasn't really about English? It was about not owning your purpose yet.
I think it was because so I started doing public speaking in 2014, and prior to that, like I said, I was so self-conscious, and it got to a point where I couldn't really speak freely in front of more than 4 people without having to memorize anything. So I used to do a lot of presentations and all pitching, right? So I literally would memorize 2 pages of my pitch and then go in the next day, and people thought, oh my God, you did so well. And then deep down I was like, wow, I'm so glad that I didn't mess up. So it got to a point where I felt like, how did I get here? I was a TV newscaster. I mean, I used to not have any fear. So why am I suddenly became so fearful? Then I realized, oh, it was because I gave my power away. So I told myself, okay, I don't know what has to happen. I don't know what's going to take, but I made a decision. I would say, okay, I don't care what it is. I have to go back to where I was, because this is too paralyzing. I can't live like this. I want to be able to talk freely on stage, and I can't be memorizing anything. So shortly I made that decision. A few months later, I scheduled my first public speaking in 2014 in front of a group of people that I didn't know a soul. I didn't know any one of them. So I thought, okay, even if I mess up, it's okay, because they don't know me, I don't know them, and
Doesn't matter.
like, right, they don't have to listen to me ever again, right? They can just blacklist me, I'm fine.
Yes,
So
exactly.
I did it, and then it was the first time that I didn't go in with any scripts. I had my PowerPoint, but I was able to get through it. I had no fear, and since that time, I never had to memorize anything ever again on stage. So It was a combination of making the decision, and also, there were some other exercise that I was doing too, internally. So a combination of that, I was able to get over that.
I love that. And I mean, that is a good place to sum up our story selling segment for business growth and turning stories into sales. And we'll be getting into storytelling again here in a moment on our third topic, the power of storytelling and branding and marketing. But before then, let's get into the why traditional sales funnels are dead and what's replacing them. I can't wait to hear. Can you kick us off, Mike?
Let's go. It's going to be tough to follow up with Mellissa. But okay, so when I look at sales funnels, personally, we run a sales agency where I have seen all types of funnels. So my goal is to show you guys what's working, what's not working, and what you could do to hopefully increase your sales with what's working today. So first off, right, when you think about like a sales funnel in its simplest terms, I'm sure we've all been to the food court and you've seen someone handing you like at the Chinese restaurant, maybe a little sample of orange chicken, right? You maybe get the orange chicken, you try it, tastes good, you hop in line, you grab the food, the upsell you on a drink probably, right? Like that's a traditional, like a funnel in its simplest terms. But the problem is now is that sales funnels are definitely evolving. The traditional funnel of maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago, where maybe you went to a site, you bought a low ticket product, and then they upsold you to a high ticket, is dead. It's not working. Don't try it. The buyer now is way more sophisticated. And to kind of paint home the example, when I talk about funnels are evolving, I'm sure everyone in this audience remembers Blockbuster. Movie rentals. You go to Blockbuster.
Yeah. Absolutely. On every corner.
That was the way you found movies, right? You didn't know what was out. You just went to Blockbuster, you scanned the aisles, you found what you liked, you took it back home, you brought it back. Like that was the funnel of movie rentals like 10, 15 years ago. But now, where's Blockbuster, right? You never hear of it. It's gone. It's extinct. But now the funnel for movie rentals is what? You go on your app, you go to Netflix, you scroll, you watch, boom. Blockbuster to Netflix removed the friction to create a easier funnel, right? Same thing for grocery store. Like for me personally, I love Instacart. I hate going to the grocery store. It's like my arch enemy. It's boring. It's tiring. I hate going there. But that was a funnel back in the day for you to buy groceries. Now your phone, buy it, done, quick. So I say all that to say is looking at your funnel, is what's happening now, is what happened in the past is what you're using now? Probably not. Because I think the biggest thing now that we're facing, and I've seen it in many business owners, is that at this point, we are in a trust recession. And I'm sure both of you guys, everyone listening, can imagine how much trust is at an all-time low. You got AI doing fake stuff nowadays. You don't know what's real, what's fake. People giving fake testimonies. People are being courses. Terrible stuff is happening where it's very hard to trust people. But the funnels that I'm seeing that are really taking business owners to the next level is very, very simple. And there's two of them. Because right now I work with a client where this month, literally, we did a $285,000 for their program. And they did this new model that's very popular now. It's a 5-day challenge. So where essentially the funnel goes like this. They invite people to a masterclass or your typical webinar. They go to a masterclass. By the end of that hour, we'll just give game, so much information. They sell them on a 5-day masterclass or a 5-day mentorship. Tickets could be anywhere from $97 to $297. But here's the thing, right? On that 1-hour class, they're building trust, they're building value, they're building credibility. And they do this for 5 weeks straight to lead to a 5-day mentorship, which is totally free or with a ticket. And then they give more value. And at the end of all that is when they finally pitch their high ticket coaching program for $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. But check this out. That's 30 days of just giving pure value. That what I'm seeing now is like the easiest way that I've been able to help clients when it comes to having sales teams. Because when I went to a Grant Cardone conference recently, if y'all know Uncle G, he used to say back in the day, like 5-6 years ago, that it takes 5 to 7 touch points for a client to buy. Guys, do you know how many touch points it takes today? This is literally from Forbes. I got it like two weeks ago.
Wow.
It takes 15 touch points now, 15
Yep.
for a client to want to buy.
I was going to say 16.
I mean, I know in like the marketing world, we say like 30 to 40 impressions, like, you know, like on LinkedIn, you know, like that's a 3-second view or some, you know, not like touch points where you're calling and you're connecting with them. I could see where that would be like 7 to 15, but yeah, it takes time for people to understand who the heck you are.
Yeah, big time.
Trust you.
And that's where the funnel comes in there, right? Traditional funnel, short.
Absolutely. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
But just wanted to say too, I've had success myself with the 5-day challenge. So it's interesting you said that. Like, I think it was 2 Januaries ago, I did a 5-day challenge in January. Maybe I should do it again this year.
Yes.
But to like get active on LinkedIn, essentially, like get consistent on LinkedIn. And we went over building their personal brand strategy, what they wanted to be known for, updating their cover image, their whole LinkedIn profile, but then posting consistently and even going live. And so that was the challenge, is like in 5 days, can you figure all those things out? And there was a winner, and then she came live on my show. So yeah, it was one of those moments where I actually made a post about it on LinkedIn, and people started just paying me without even talking to me, because I did sort of low dollar. And I was like, oh, there's like people paying who aren't even liking the posts. And yeah, I I should probably do that again because it did bring people into the funnel who ended up going into the coaching program, ended up going to my retreats. So yeah, I back you up on that 5-day challenge. Any other like tricks or like campaigns that you suggest to help get people in the funnel?
Man, there are so many, but like I said, the one that we're seeing right now, because like I said, we build sales teams in the back end to like take the calls and all that fun stuff. It really just is like there's five. They do a class every week to lead to that 5-day challenge. So that's a phenomenal way to get people in. And then they are buying at the low ticket, $97 to get onto that 5-day challenge. But the whole point that if I could get anything across, it's just that we have to give so much more value than 2, 3, 4 years ago. So if anyone's wondering why their funnel is not working, the only thing I would actually look at is how much are you delivering on the front end will tell you what you're going to receive on the back end. Because they did so much on the front end that led to a $250K month that I truly think with the traditional webinar of like an hour class that goes to a sale, that's dead. Any client I've had in the last 3, 4 months that just does the VSL, it's not hitting the same as it used to, but yes, more value is the key.
Yeah, value. And people want like real live training. They don't want to like watch your videos. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, what would you add on all of this, Mellissa?
So I don't work a lot with funnels, but I would definitely agree with Mike because, really 15, 16 touches is the way to go. So, and just like Mike said, right, it's the trust factor. Do people trust you? How do you build that trust? So telling story is a good way to build that trust because, you're sharing about your backstory. You're sharing about, what makes you who you are. You're sharing, why you do what you do. You're sharing, what makes you different. You're sharing all of that. So every time you share something, it's another touch. So if you count that, it's easier to, get up to 16. And also, like I said, story is the way people connect. I mean, think back in the Stone Age days, right? How did information pass from generation to generation, back then? They didn't have any books, didn't have any paper. So it was like carved on stones and also maybe, verbally, right? So, one person, telling the story to the next generation, and then they keep passing it down. So it's just like passed down verbally. So, I mean, there's so much power and so much value in the story. I think people kind of nowadays forget, and people like to take the easy route, right? Oh, I'm just going to type something in ChatGPT and see what it comes up with. But it may or may not good for your story, depending on, whether if ChatGPT doesn't, know how your, live, story is. Like, for example, if this CPA story, if he just types something, in ChatGPT and say, hey, can you come up with a story? I bet you ChatGPT wouldn't know about that story because he never told that story. So he would have a very, very different brand story to share with. And so his story may not create the same, impact or the same interest to attract potential clients. So like I said, I'm a story seller, so I wholeheartedly believe in story. And not just to believe it, there's studies show that people only remember 5 to 10% of data versus 65 to 70% of stories. So to me, stories king. Tell your story.
Nice. There's an old saying, they say stories sell and facts tell.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's our tagline. Yep.
And stories go back to prehistoric time, right? Like people were drawing pictures in caves. Right. We have stories in Bibles or whatever these religious documents are that just like control bodies of people. So stories are extremely powerful.
Yep.
What do the people remember of stories? I don't know. Is it the villain? Is there a certain component? Like, what do you think it is?
Well, I personally do not use that formula only because I write screenplays as well. And I think in business, you don't have to assign and say who's the hero, who's the villain. I don't think of my customer being a villain. I'm obviously not a villain. So I would say, in terms of crafting a business story, I don't use that formula. In screenwriting, absolutely, right? But in business storytelling, nobody has to be a hero, nobody has to be a villain. You just have to really figure out, what resonates, right? Like, for example, your story has to be relevant to your target audience. So this
Yes.
CPA,
Amen.
right?
Sure
His
does.
story is relevant to
Messaging,
us,
even in
right?
your funnel, if your messaging is off in your funnel,
Exactly.
like
It's not
if
going to
your
work.
landing page says
Uh-huh.
that you offer LinkedIn services, but then they get down the funnel and it's really about email marketing, then we're like, what the heck?
Yeah, exactly. So it has to be relevant. So this guy, like I said, I'll go back to example again, because he's serving, like his clients, he's helping people save money, and he witnessed how his father was audited, and it was just, it was causing a lot of stress within the family, and he decided to, okay, I'm going to do something about it, and he did years later. So that story is relevant to his target audience. So that's why it works. If he's telling a story that has nothing to do with, getting audited or anything, then it's not going to resonate, because, like, what does it do with what you're trying to sell me?
Exactly. So how would you wrap us up, Mike, on this topic? I mean, we got back into stories, which gets back into the trust thing. I loved your whole like trust recession thing, but like why traditional sales funnels are dead and what's replacing them. I can see why you said that, because of trust, like no one wants to be. I even wrote a parody on TikTok, if you follow me on TikTok, about the cold pitch slap on LinkedIn. Like no one wants a cold DM coming at them that is like not relevant to them. I will admit I've gotten a cold DM and I have bought from it, but it was highly targeted. It was highly relevant. I use High Level as an agency software, and they were offering high level services for podcasters. And I'm like, perfect. I needed help. So they found the right person, but so maybe that's not a good example. But yeah, I don't know. Wrap us up on the whole funnel part of it, and how do we move forward with this?
Absolutely. So human connection beats anything at the end of the day, right? In this world of AI we're living in, you don't know what's real and what's fake. But for the beginner, the business owner who's like just getting started, or like just getting going, voice notes are probably your best friend. But I think like the simplest funnel, right? It would be post on a story or piece of content, do a call to action that goes to your DM, send this person a voice note saying that, what's your story? What are you about? What's your challenge? What's your goals? And then lead that into a sales call. Is the easiest funnel for beginners. You don't need any money to do it, but to keep it simple, if you're trying to turn something into a funnel or make it easy for yourself, human connection is the best option for you to go with.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And also another piece I would add to that would be really dig in and figure out why you do what you do. Because, you may have good days as a business owner and you may have bad days. And if you don't really understand why you do what you do, then on the bad days, you'll be like, okay, well, I'm giving up. This is too hard. I have trouble getting clients, or the messaging is not working, whatever reason, right? But really understanding why you do what you do and what makes you the best person to deliver that kind of service to your client would really help you, sort of beat out your competitors.
100%. Well, thank you both for sharing on both of those topics. We still have two more hot topics similarly related: the power of storytelling and branding and marketing, and how to drive big revenue growth without spending, that we need to get through quickly. And we will do so right after this brief message from Cherry Assistant.
This is Mike, also known as Clean with Mike on Twitter. Mike hired a virtual assistant from Cherry Assistant about 2 years ago. Now he has a $50K per month business fully managed by a remote operator in South Africa. His VA from South Africa does the following: closing inbound leads on the phone, Yelp and Google and Facebook, manages his CRM and Go High Level, deals with rescheduling, cancellations, any issues, hires and manages the cleaners, and sends them daily reports and updates. Mike has a fully cash flowing business managed by a remote operator for only $8 an hour. You can also hire a US equivalent worker in the Philippines, South Africa, Latin America for a fraction of the cost with Cherry Assistant. Be like Mike and grow your business with offshore staff.
So if you're listening to this on podcast on screen right now, we're showing lead generation services, CRM management, prospecting assistance, sales presentation preparation, data entry and cleanup, customer support, project management assistance as some of the services they're offering over at Cherry Assistant. Also, if you go over there and you do end up booking a call with them, let them know that you heard about them through WinsDay for $250 off your first month. But let's get into our third topic, the power of storytelling and branding and marketing. So we've talked about this a little bit. What more would you add on that, Mellissa?
I would say, really, there's so much power in storytelling. And I'll give you an example. So, we were hired by a nonprofit to go to Niger. And the reason why is because they want to raise more money, and they are a nonprofit that drills wells in Niger, West Africa, so that women and girls don't have to walk miles to bring water back to the villages. So I don't know if you guys have seen pictures, where women have these jugs on top of their heads and they're walking, and they really carrying water. And sometimes they have to walk as far as 4 or 5 miles just one way. So I got there, and after talking to the local NGOs, I realized that, wow, the story is actually much bigger than just the hardship. And here's why. So Niger is a Muslim country. So it is a woman's job to go get water. And because of that, the mothers would take all the girls with her. So that means the girls will get yanked out of school, and they don't have a chance to really stay in school and become educated. So when they can't stay in school, they become a liability to the family. They get married off at 14. And because they don't practice contraception, so they keep giving birth to babies, and the babies keep dying of contaminated water. So it's a vicious cycle. I was speaking to a woman who was 39 at the time. She gave birth to 9 children, only one survives. It's really, really heartbreaking. So when I came back, I told them, look, it's good to be covering, hardship, but if you really, really want to make an impact, and if you really, really want people to open up their wallet and give you more money, we have to talk about the impact of having more wells in the community, in just talking about the hardship. So luckily they listened. So we changed the story from hardship to impact, and the result was a 3-minute short documentary, and they were able to raise 390,000 in a 3-hour live fundraising event. So again, the reason why I'm sharing this story is because story, really figure out who you're trying to target and the kind of story you can tell to make the biggest impact. Really go for the biggest impact. But like I said, the story has to be relevant and has to resonate with your target audience. So that's the tricky part, because a lot of times, people say, oh yeah, I can tell a story, but it's not about telling a random story. It's talking about telling a calculated story that pulls all the information about your business together so that you can make the most impact.
Yes, such an important point to bring up, because when you don't have your strategy down and you don't understand your audience or your messaging, you can tell stories all day and nothing's
Right.
going to
It's not going to
happen.
do anything for you.
Yeah. So let's see. We've gotten some comments. Let's see the power of storytelling. Wow. Don't tell random stories. Yeah. They should be calculated stories. I love that whole suggestion. Thank you for that. So, so the shift from like hardship to impact, that's such a powerful pivot. What signs should a founder or marketer look for to know their story's actually aiming too small?
Okay. I'll share this. So I talk a lot about this. I do a lot of workshops and presentations for different organizations. So when they bring me in, I always, share this point. You have to look at your products and service. It doesn't matter, which, whether it's a product or service, but what can your product or service do for your clients? And how is that going to make their lives different or better? Because until you can pinpoint that, you really have no story to tell. And here's why. Like I said, your story has to make an impact, because the bigger the impact, the more you can make people feel, and make them, want to find out more about your product and services. So really dig in and look at, okay, what is my product doing for my client? And how is my product or service going to help my clients live a better life or help them make a bigger impact in whatever they're doing? So you kind of have to put on a different hat. Instead of just looking at your own business, you almost have to kind of cross over to the other side of the street and look back at your business and put on a different lens to really examine, what can your products and services do for your client and how are you going to impact their life? How are you going to make their lives better? If you can answer this question, then crafting a story about it will become easier.
Yes, 100%. I agree. What's your take on all this, Mike?
I'm on the same page because one thing I'll tell my sales team is like when we're on these calls, like I said, story, sell, facts, tell. But rather than like telling someone how the product helps them, what's like a testimony or a story that can be told? And every time like you're talking, Mellissa, I keep thinking about, man, this is why having testimonies that like relate to the client's story is so dang powerful. And I'm probably gonna tell it tomorrow to my team. But yeah, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I'll just add that if you have testimonies of a client where their story matches what they're going through, showing them is so powerful to kind of get them to convert.
It really is. Yes, that's such a great point. Oh man, so much we could get into in stories here, but let's dive into how to drive big revenue growth without spending a dime on ads. So, can you kick us off on this one, Mike?
Absolutely. But can I ask a quick question though? Do I have your permission to give your audience a play that can make
For
them
sure.
like
Absolutely.
a sale today?
Okay.
Is that cool?
Yes.
Okay. Because they say information without execution is useless. So I promise you, if someone runs this play right now, you're gonna make some money tonight, like today. So what I want to run you guys through is this really fast. When I got into the coaching and consulting world, I had been selling for someone else's offer for like 2 years straight. And I was so nervous to start my own offer. But one day someone told me an amazing play. And I basically went on my story and I put this exact words that someone right now could do literally ASAP. And I said, I want to help the next 3 people make $2,000 from remote sales in the next 30 days. My first time ever doing this post. I put it on my story. 2 people DM'd me and I hopped on a call with them. One of these people was somebody who was following me for almost 2 years. And to Melissa's point, I have been telling my story of going from front desk to running my own agency. And surprise, surprise, someone had been watching that story for 2 years. And the moment I did that call to action on my story, we hopped on a phone call, we went through the sales process, and he paid $4,000, my first high ticket sale on that call right there, right then. I was lit. And I ran that play for like a month straight off my organic audience, straight off just, like I said, having my story, hop on a call, and bam, it was simple. So for anyone listening, if you're like, hey, I'm trying to get a sale today, I still run this play even right now. By just doing that call to action on your story, I want to help 3 people, insert goal, insert timeline, XYZ. And if you guys need some help, you can follow me at mbusby_. I will send this exact thing. But to answer the question, how do you drive revenue without ads? That was it right there. I spent $0 to get that first 2 or 3 clients, but I already had a decent organic following. So to Melissa's point, keep telling your story, keep doing your thing, but to keep it simple, do that call to action on your story, and you will see so much growth off people who are already in your funnel, already in your ecosystem. It would go crazy for you.
Yes.
I want to piggyback that. I absolutely agree with this strategy. I have not done it myself, but I also want to caution, because there are a lot of like fake stories out there. So whatever you're saying, make sure that your story is true or authentic, because there's just too many coaches out there that are just saying, you guys have all heard of it. Oh, I went from bankruptcy to this. I went from homeless to this. Unless you really went through it yourself, otherwise it's not true. So don't say anything and claim anything that is not true, because it's going to come back and bite you. So definitely use that strategy. As long as your story is true and you can back it up, by all means, like do a lot of call to actions.
Yeah. And just be super clear on them. Make your make it really easy for people to do whatever it is you're asking them to do, right? Like, don't give them like a form with, 20 different fields on it, or I don't know, make them go talk to a number of different people just to get a price or something, just like, I don't know, at Reveting, we put our pricing right on our website, so you can at least get a little feel for it before you hop on a call with us, or you can just like buy it right there on our website. That's my school of thought. I feel like that helps build trust, is, just creating some transparency there for those people who want to shop online. But anyway, what more would you both add on this before we close out the show with the guru of the week?
Absolutely. I'll just end it out with that point of obviously once you've run that play, hopping on that phone call is so powerful. Like, even today in 2025, having a genuine conversation with someone is the easiest way to convert a sale. And if anyone's out there like, oh my God, Mike, like, how do I go from that call to a sale? Like, I got you. If you shoot me a follow at @mbusby_, I have a completely free guide to go through that sales call and recordings of me going through sales call. I'll send it to you. I got you. But if you believe in what you're saying, that conviction will likely push that person over the line, because it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And if you have great stories, like how Mellissa said, it should be a done deal.
It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And people remember how you make them feel, not what you say. But anyway, yes, this has been such a really great conversation. But before we go, we still got to do the guru of the week. So, in good old fashioned Wednesday style, I'm going to be exiting the screen. If you could both tell us why we should go follow your gurus of the week.
Well, I want to say, well, actually, it's yeah, okay, now it's right. So I follow Gary Vee only because, to me, he whatever strategies, his take on things is really refreshing sometimes. He went from selling wine to a full-on, ad agency. So I think there's a lot of gold in there, and sometimes you may think, oh, his take is a little bit different, than a lot of people in marketing. But like I said, I like his refreshing take, and I also like his, like he just say as it is. So that's why, he's my guru of the week.
Let's go. Yeah, Gary Vee's amazing. He got me into entrepreneurship, actually. So he's awesome. I'll be buy the Jets one day. But for me, it's Chris Du. And in this crazy world of sales, I respect the people who aren't salesy. And if you go on Chris's profile, he's a complete sales guy. You may not know it, but I like the way he presents himself, and he gives so many great ways to sell for people who aren't naturally in sales. So I'm always a big fan of helping the complete beginners, people who are just getting started. Chris's information is great for people who are introverts, people who don't like to hop on calls, people who don't want to express themselves. He has a great way of explaining that to people, because I'm naturally extroverted. But he's a great person for someone who's introverted on how to do sales without being salesy.
Yes, sell without being salesy. I love that. This has been a really amazing conversation. But before we go, we want to hear a little bit more from you. David's already asking in the comments about, Mike, how people can reach you. So like we say here on WinsDay, to wrap us up, if you could both just tell us a little bit more about yourself, who you serve, how you serve them, and if they could be served by you, how do they reach you? Could you kick us off, Mike?
Absolutely. So like I said, guys, my name's Mike. I own Freedom Sales Group. We help entrepreneurs who are sick and tired of sales calls. They are trying to get off them. We will place a proven sales team in your business to get you off calls and do more of what you like. So if you are a business owner if you're taking sales calls, you're sick and tired of them, or if you're just getting started in sales, my Instagram is the best place to reach me at @mbusby_. That's a letter M, B as in, my last name here, USBY_. Connect with me. If you send me the words podcast right now, I'll know you came from this amazing community, and I will hook you guys up with all my free sales calls plus a script to help you out as well. But yeah, thank you so much.
So for me, I'm pretty easy to find as well. And my most popular platform is LinkedIn, because my clients are mostly B2B. And but make sure that you have you have the correct spelling, because my name is spelled with 2 L's and 2 S's. So go ahead and follow me on LinkedIn, and feel free to message me. I have like ebooks, I'm happy to share as well. I have ebooks about how to, the 3 secrets of an impactful elevator pitch, capability statement, all kinds of stuff. So, like I said, just say podcast, tag me, and then I'll send you, something that will work for you.
Amazing. Thank you both so much for coming on and for sharing how you help people and how we can reach you. This has been a really great conversation. We could probably go on much longer, but just in good old-fashioned Wednesday style, we'll sum things up at 9 p.m. But we've got another really great episode for next week planned. We have, let's see, we've got Jess Guffey and Christopher Kroner coming on next week. So that's going to be a really great episode yet again here on Wednesday. But until then, hope everyone has a really great night. And thanks again, Mellissa and Mike, for coming on. And if you don't mind holding tight just for a moment so we can make sure we get a good local recording. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.